Okay, let's try again. Whether it will be better this time. Okay, so sorry for the low voice, but that was Robert Mugabe addressing uh, the African Union on the reforms of the UN Security Council. What I wanted you to notice is his gestures. He was speaking deliberately, but with some authoritative and emphatic voice. And you noted the reaction of the audience. They were quite enthused. Let's look at another one. Okay. 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 So I'm sure you have an idea of what we will be talking about in terms of public speaking. Uh, what did you notice about public speaking in all these um, clips which we were attending to? What were these people, well, what was the focus? How were they presenting themselves? how were they presenting themselves? I thought I showed you. Manja, the voice was very. Sorry?
Had confidence in themselves.
They had confidence in themselves. What else?
They were speaking with their hands.
They were using hands. What else?
They were expressing what they are talking about
How?
by showing eye contact to the audience.
By showing eye contact with the audience. What else? What else? Okay.
More face you have.
All right, so here we are. What people were saying is very true about public speaking. Public speaking is like performance. People who speak to a live audience are like actors. Public speaking will require us to practice. It is a formal face-to-face activity where a single person is in front and the rest of us are the audience. I'm sure yesterday, those of us who are quite cautious about the life after, we were in church and we were listening to our pastors. There are three things that are important when you are preparing to to speak to an audience. When you are speaking to an audience, it is commonly understood that that speech that you are making is a formal speech. When you are speaking to an audience, you assume that element of formality. It's not like an informal speech when you are speaking to your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You are a bit formal. So, what are the steps that you have to take when you are making or performing a formal speech? First of all, you have to plan. Planning facilitates the speaker to prepare what they are going to deliver. When you are planning, you take into account what is the occasion. Is it a funeral? Is it a wedding? Or what is it? The audience. Who are your audience? The purpose. These things are very, very important. Because if you will be speaking certain things at a funeral, they may not be welcome. In the same manner, at a wedding, you are speaking certain things, they may not be very welcome. At a wedding, would someone talk about how many girlfriends the bridegroom had before they got married? I don't think so, because the occasion would not allow that. People, when they are at a wedding, they speak nice about somebody, the fact that these people have been very nice couples and all the rest of it. They don't speak about the fights that were there, the quarrels and things like that. Similarly, at a funeral, you speak in about the deceased. You don't. The second aspect is writing. You have to collect the required material. So you have to do some homework. And you have to create an outline. That's very important. When you have an outline, it means that when you are speaking, you stick to your outline, to the points that you have jotted down. They will guide you. And perhaps, if your speech is going to be read, then you have to write a draft of your speech. So those are the first steps. Now, after you have done this, then there are some other things that you're going to consider. Method of delivery. How are you going to deliver your speech? One of the most popular methods, if you don't want to be embarrassed, is to memorize the speech. Memorization Some speakers memorize the entire text of the speech and deliver it. Now, when you have memorized, you don't have to worry because you are speaking as if you're speaking natural. Fortunately, these days, memorization can be overcome by using some teleprompters. I'm sure you have seen people like Joe Biden or Trump making some speeches, and on the sides there's something like a glass contraption. That facility reflects what is written, right? So all you have to do is to train your eyes to be looking at the audience, but at the same time to be looking at the teleprompter. So you can be reading from there. But in the past, people have had to memorize. The second method of delivery is to read out from a prepared manuscript. Now, in this instance, the speaker reads out a written manuscript of the speech. But the problem with that kind of delivery is obvious. People will be bored stiff because you will not have the occasion of eye contact. So, what you may have to do under those circumstances is at least trying to read your manuscript beforehand so that you can be able to at least quickly read through a few lines and then have that eye contact, which is very, very important with the audience. The other one is extemporaneous. This one is the most effective method. In other words, the speaker carries a few notes and explains each point. It's like the next one, which is the PowerPoint. This method, where you have got some notes and then you are speaking from the notes, it's the most effective because it expresses confidence of the speaker. You try to explain things naturally. The same with the fourth method, which is the PowerPoint method. Here the speaker speaks to some slides and explains them orally. So you have your points lined out the way I have on the screen there. And then each time I tell you a point, I pause and I try to explain, or I explain. This kind of method is good because it provides flexibility. You are able to dwell on a point, give examples, and sometimes even engage the audience. The fifth one is impromptu. An impromptu speech means a speech without advanced preparation. Here, the speaker needs to speak without any preparation, and it is delivered at the spur of the moment. We saw 3 speeches before this. Which kinds of speeches were those? Let's start with Mugabe. What kind of speech delivery was that? When he was speaking at the African Union. Impromptu? At the African Union Summit. Can you have an impromptu speech at, let's say, where President Jaguar has born? He was reading from a manuscript, right? But the way he was reading from the manuscript, because there we just took 2 minutes, 10 seconds, right? But if you read the whole speech, right, it's more than that. So, in that kind of audience, because everything will be recorded for posterity. Just imagine, is Robert Mugabe in this world? But we are referring to that speech, right? So it was a manuscript, but the way he was speaking to it, it meant that he had read it beforehand, right? And he was able to speak as if he is speaking naturally. So when you are reading from a manuscript, you have to learn to at least familiarize yourself with it. Or I would say halfway memorize bits and pieces of it, so that you can be able to speak to your manuscript. Kamuzu Banda, what kind of speech was that? Memorized speech. Because each time Kamuzu Banda was speaking, even after that was 1958, even after 1958, right? He would remind the audience that when he came back in 1958 at Chileka Airport, he made a speech where he said that he had come to do 3 things. What did he say? Those 3 things were to end the stupid federation, the second, so you are not listening. To act as a bridge, that was the third one. The second one, to give his people freedom, and then to act as a bridge between races. Adolf Hitler, what kind of speech was that? Impromptu. Do you think he memorized that?
No.
That was impromptu speech. And you could notice from the way he was speaking, right, that he was quite charged up. So usually in impromptu speeches, you're quite charged up, and so on. So those are the way you would deliver a speech. One, by memorizing. Two, by reading from the manuscript. Three, by making some notes. And then explaining those notes. Four, by PowerPoint. And five, impromptu delivery. Strategies for delivery. When you want to deliver a good speech, you must have some strategies. One strategy is that you have to attract the audience through a catchy beginning. So you have to have a beginning which is catchy. Beep, beep. How do you answer? Yanyamuka. Is it that how politicians start? They always have got some slogan, isn't it? Right? That is a catchy beginning. Attract people's attention to start with. Right? So those slogans that you have at political rallies, they're not just for the sake of people making some slogans. It's to attract people's attention, like at the beginning, right? So even if it is not a political rally, you have to have some kind of a book which will attract the attention of the audience. Secondly, correct pronunciations. Sometimes when you make wrong pronunciations, that can be very, very embarrassing. So make sure that the words that you use are correctly pronounced. Otherwise, people will be spending time just laughing at your wrong pronunciation. Next year, we are going to have what? Trapite. Trapite what? Trapite erections? Are we going to have trapite erections or trapite elections? Sorry? Elections. Suppose you say we're going to have trapite elections. People will be laughing because these two words mean totally different things. Right? So make sure that you have the right pronunciations, especially between R and L. A lot of speakers have problems in R and L's. Right? reader and leader. These are two different words. Right? So make sure that your pronunciations are correct. Voice modulation, that is another. Politicians are very good at this. You find that in one instance, they are speaking very softly. In the next instance, they're shouting as if someone has suddenly provoked them and so on. What they are trying to do is get the audience's attention. Use of positive